Rubbish wrestling is the best. I don't even like to use the word rubbish because if you're entertained, who cares? That's the whole point. Get in there in whatever fashion you'd like. Sometimes you can get a feeling before this goes down too, and then often, after you do tune in, it's even worse. You crack new ground, and all of a sudden maybe it's not so fun anymore. So what madness should you check out today? Let's find out. Number 15, the clowning at Survivor Series 93. Doink the Clown was the man. Or the clown, I suppose, I don't know. But when Matt Bourne played the character, it had a genuine edge, and even the variations after, they were dumb, but I like dumb, so at least it was fun. The WWF clearly thought this too at the Survivor Series in 1993, because they had a whole team of them. 4 to be precise, and they were also facing Bam Bam Bigelow, Bastion Booger, and the Head Shrinkers. Oh yeah, there was something mad here because my word, in motion when you see it, I don't think any of them knew this was taking place live. Bastion Booger, as per his character, was booked to eat turkey because it was Thanksgiving, I suppose, whereas Afa, who was managing the squad, joined in. Don't get this wrong though, they were instructed to eat this like they had no manners, so who exactly was this for? The bushwhackers who were also involved were more interested in scooters because they had a literal banana peel slip, and then there was poor Bam Bam. A genuine game changer in wrestling. I'm sure he was wondering why he got put in this. The coins, of course, were Doink Dink and Mo and Mabel from Men of the Mission, and honestly, this is barely a match because once again, everybody is just mucking around. Listen to Vince McMahon on commentary too. He knows. He keeps telling us what a good time they're all having. Wrestling. It really is a farce, but my gosh, you will laugh for all the wrong reasons. A total disaster, and one I think that was planned. Insane. Number 14, the aftermath of Kofi Kingston. We all remember how awful it was when Kofi Kingston lost his WWE title to Brock Lesnar in 8 seconds. WWE did this as SmackDown was debuting Fox, so we needed a talking point. Okay, but at least let them have a proper match. What we all forget about is what happened next because man, it was strange. Literally right after this went down, UFC warrior Cain Velasquez walked out to confront Brock. As we learned, this was the next feud. Wasn't the worst idea in the world either. Velasquez and Lesnar did have history in the octagon, and Cain was a star in his own right. It could have worked, but it did not. The two made a crown jewel that year, and yeah, aside from being another crazy short fight, it was worked like an MMA scrap, and it did not click. Lesnar tapped Velasquez out in 2 minutes with a Kimura, and then continued to kill him. It was his apparent friend Rey Mysterio that chased Brock away with a chair, and everybody was confused because what the flub was this? Given it was the same card where we also had Tyson Fury, and yes, we'll get to that one as well, you have to imagine this was Saudi Arabia asking for some outside celebrities. But I'll tell you, bad idea. Number 13, Brock vs. Goldberg 1. It is important to note that when we learned it was going to be Bill Goldberg vs. Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 20, people were excited. It was two big men slapping man meat before that was a phrase. They were just gonna kill each other. Not quite. Somehow word got out that both guys were leaving following the pay-per-view, and the fans in Madison Square Garden did not like that. In fact, they had taken it personally, and therefore this match was not allowed to go easy. The audience booed the shit out of them. You have to see it to believe it, because it's one of the biggest disconnects between a crowd and what's going down in the ring. And just look at special referee Steve Austin's face. He continues to laugh because he can't believe it. The reason it runs further is because Brock was genuinely upset, and that showed too. Goldberg has spoken about having to have a word with him during all this, but he looks fed up as well. And of course I understand. When you realize you're already cooked, what else can you do? There's also rumors Shane McMahon was in the stands getting people to chant even more, and it's why when they linked up again in 2016, eyebrows were raised. We can't go through this again. Thankfully we didn't, and Goldberg and Lesnar did what they wanted to do here. Just go and watch that one instead. Number 12, Ronda and Shaina don't get the room. Do I actually like this? I was clearly the outlier, but there was something interesting about Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler doing an MMA-inspired grappling match at SummerSlam 2023. The vast majority of fans disagreed, however. Moreover, so did Ronda. Afterwards, she admitted that, to use her words, a bunch of octogenarians had taken her vision and ruined it. In short, she wasn't happy with what Vince McMahon decided to do. As such, the execution wasn't quite what Rousey was going for, and boy did that show. The fact this was meant to be her WWE swan song too, and she lost to Baszler, well, company didn't follow up on that either. Shayna did nothing. The major issue was the crowd that day though, because yeah, they clearly didn't think much to this, and it was quickly forgotten about. A real shame. We should always be trying to do stuff outside the box. Number 11, Goldberg says no. Let us make this clear. This has nothing to do with Goldberg, Kevin Nash, or Scott Steiner. I'm sure they rolled their eyes too because good grief. It all falls at the feet of Vince Russo, who just thought the worst part of wrestling was the wrestling. I know it even sounds stupid. At the WCW New Blood Rising 2000 pay-per-view though, even Russo took this way too far, because during a match between these three, Goldberg refused to take the Nash powerbomb. And yes, you heard that correctly, this wasn't a desperate struggle in the ring. As the commentators made clear, the script called for Goldberg to be hit with the move, but Bill refused and walked out. That was the story. Russo even met him at the top of the aisle with Bill telling him to flub off, and the concept was to make fans desperate to tune in to see what was happening behind the scenes. Spoiler alert, it totally failed. Think of the live crowd too. They don't have the awful context bleeding into their ears, so it just looked like Goldberg screwed something up and then he walked out. So bad and offensive, to be honest. You were being told believing in wrestling made you an idiot. Well, thanks. The build to the pay-per-view had been all the same thing too, so I guess this was just a tease. To see it go down though, sheesh, it was so bad. Another nail in WCW's coffin. Number 10, Taker versus Taker. Another one that's hard for me to criticize because I was a child. And when this did happen, yep, I thought it was amazing. 2 Undertakers? How? I guess this goes back to the last entry. You can believe anything if you're happy just to accept what you're seeing. Turns out the older demographic didn't agree, and most thought the Undertaker taking on another version of himself at SummerSlam 1994 was not good. A huge issue is how long it went, although actually it was only 10 minutes. I suppose Brian Lee, who was playing the fake dead man, just didn't look enough like the OG to pull it off. You can throw shade at the build too, because the Naked Gun team were trying to solve this mystery, but again, I love those movies, so really this is just a nice memory. The issue is, if you do go watch it today, the live fans are not interested, especially because Bret and Owen Hart had put on a clinic the same night. What a weird pay-per-view this is. Number 9, King Mabels' main event run. By all accounts, the real-life Nelson Fraser was the best guy. So it's important to note that there's nothing better than being a good dude, although that didn't really translate into his big WWF push. The main chat is always from SummerSlam 1995, where Mabel, off the back of the King of the Ring win, faced Diesel for the WWE title. Don't think Kevin Nash was a fan, because apparently Mabel crushed his ribs half to death. You can kind of tell this when you watch it too. Diesel yells in a way that's far more than, "Ow, I'm going to sell that." It's sort of tied into the surprise for the WWF audience too, because when Mabel was crowned the king, nobody had seen him in such a fashion. A large reason Vince McMahon pulled the trigger is because we were post-steroid scandal, and he wanted big guys who weren't on the juice. Mr. Man on a mission ticked that box. It did not translate to a main event singles run though, and also after breaking the Undertaker's nose by accident, well, Mabel was taken away from the main event scene and eventually let go. Thankfully, he would come back as Viscera. This was not good. Number 8, WCW steals WrestleMania 6's main event. And it didn't work at all. It was as WCW tried to get business heading in the right direction again, so went back to Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior in 1998. There were issues there. The first was that the WCW audience likely wasn't into this before, so now they didn't want it on their TV. This was sports entertainment. They wanted wrestling. The second, well, it was terrible. Hopes were not high because it had been years since the Mania 6 match and the industry had moved on, but also, this just wasn't it. The Warriors' promos were so long it often meant Nitro had to be rewritten mid-show, and that match at Halloween Havoc. I mean, it's a bit like the Doink contest. It's so bad, it's sort of good for all the wrong reasons. This was put together because Hulk decided he had to get his win back. And then there's the fire paper. Hogan wanted to burn his rival and of course set himself alight instead. And summed the whole thing up. It wasn't meant to be, but it was very funny. Fans hated it too, and don't forget the moment where Warrior spoke to Hogan through the mirror and Eric Bischoff thought Hulk Hogan was insane. Well, we could see it as well, which meant we were insane. This is one of the stupidest feuds ever done. Number 7, Tyson Furys' short-lived wrestling career. Now, I do understand that WWE is always going to want to use outside celebrities in the ring. Especially when you go to Saudi Arabia, it's just another glitzy box you can tick. At Crown Jewel 2019, which we have already talked about though, we did Braun Strowman versus Tyson Fury. And listen, I respect everybody who does give it a go, but Tyson Fury should not have been on pay-per-view. I mean, we've seen what he's done in the boxing ring, but here it was just a whole lot of nothing and for around about 5 minutes they just looked at each other and then sort of danced around. This went for 10 minutes too, which was way too long, and for some reason halfway through, Tyson did the Undertaker's iconic setup routine. I mean, that's great and all, but why don't you do something else? It was just a no-win situation from minute one, and everybody who did tune in probably face-palmed their forehead all at once. Fury also got a count-out win over Braun, so I'm just gonna say it, man. This is kind of crappy. Number 6, Shawn Michaels does not have the best comeback. So once again, we do go to Saudi Arabia a year prior at Crown Jewel in 2018. And listen, I am fine with Shawn Michaels wanting to come back for a huge payday. He gave a lot to the wrestling business, and if he was able to get a bunch of millions of dollars, well, more power to that guy. At the same time, Michaels and Triple H versus The Undertaker and Kane at the show, well, even they have come out and talked about this. The dead man has gone on record saying that should have been the easiest night of my life, and instead it was an utter disaster. I mean, for one, Triple H tore his pec, 2, Kane's mask came off, 3, The Undertaker was too clearly injured to do anything, and while Shawn himself actually looked pretty good, nobody could have saved this. The wrestling powers that be had decided, no. You really do not want to go and watch this either because it would just make you sad. Let's just draw a line under it and never talk about it again. Number 5, Bret Hart versus Vince McMahon at Wrestlemania. Now, in many ways, it's very cool that we did get this because at one point in time, it was impossible. Bret Hart had decided he was never going to go back to the WWF. That all changed in 2010 when he did pop up on Raw and make amends with Shawn Michaels, but one guy he still hated was Vince McMahon. So of course we got to Mania and we did the match. The issue was Bret had been through so many personal struggles he was never going to be able to live up to his own legacy, which wasn't his fault, so we just turned this into a massive schmoz. While it was kind of satisfying because the Hitman did win, well, it is not easy to watch, and that pains me to say it because Bret Hart is the best of all time. I think where the WWE really fell down was with the build, because while we should have just focused on the Montreal screw job, because that story was right there, we added in a hit and run and who knows what else. You talk about overcooking the pudding. We didn't need it. Number 4, The Undertaker hangs the Big Boss Man. Now, we often forget about the Hell in the Cell at WrestleMania 15, mostly because it was during a time where WWE was overly obsessed with this stipulation, was accidentally running it into the ground. It also meant we got The Undertaker versus the Big Boss Man, and I totally understood it at the time. It was the Corporation versus the Ministry of Darkness, but that doesn't explain the ending, where after the Phenom had won, he took the Boss Man and he hanged him. I don't mean that in a ha-ha funny way either. The Ministry quite literally tied a noose around his head, attached him to the top of the cell, and this whole segment ended with the Boss Man swinging from side to side. The message we were given is that he was dead, and then we got to Raw and he was just there. I mean, we never got any answers to this, but it is totally disturbing. Without wanting to be that guy, let's never do that again. I mean, what the flub? Number 3, Ric Flair's last match. Before we even got to Ric Flair's last match in 2022, the Nature Boy had been through a lot of health problems, so most people thought him teaming with Andrade to take on Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal probably wasn't the best idea. They were correct. I mean, it's no surprise that there were obvious limitations to this and that Andrade did most of the legwork, but some of the decisions we made here, well, it was just ridiculous, like Rick pretending he was going to have a heart attack. He even got checked over by medics, and when we do remember that wrestling is meant to be sports entertainment, who is that making feel good in their tum-tums? If anything, you're just going to trigger someone, they're going to feel sad as they have a bad memory. He also bleeds all over the place, which cannot be good for a man well into his 70s. And listen, if you were trying to keep the legacy of the Nature Boy alive, this is another one you do want to avoid. It was not good. It was not fun. Let's try and never do this again. Number 2, Kurt Angle retires. So as I have said time and time again, I will never put the blame on Baron Corbin here. He just turned up to work and got told, oh, by the way, at WrestleMania, you're going to be the guy to beat Kurt Angle, and then one of the best in-ring technicians ever is going to be retired. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Angle has come out time and time again and said he pushed for John Cena because, of course, it was John Cena that interrupted Kurt Angle to start the ruthless aggression era. But the main issue with this is that it just made fans sad. We all wanted Kurt Angle to have that one last tie, so we go, oh my gosh, he is that good. And to be honest, I think it's all down to WWE. They didn't give him any pomp and circumstance at all. If I were to hazard a guess, they never really forgave him for going to TNA. And I don't want to go as far to say they treated Kurt Angle like a jobber, but given what he did do in this industry, and given that he will be in the top 5 of most people's top 10 lists, well, yeah, all of a sudden we do start heading in this direction, it was not done the right way at all. Number 1, Goldberg versus The Undertaker in Saudi Arabia. So here's back to one of these shows, and I've always taken umbrage with this because this was pitched as a dream match. Now listen, Goldberg versus The Undertaker is two legends fighting, but at no point in time, even during the invasion, did anybody say, I need to see Bill versus the Dead Man, when they were heading in completely different directions. This one is just such a mess, as admitted to by both guys, because before the bell rang, Bill had suffered a concussion, so he didn't really know what was going on. It also meant that when he went for the jackhammer, he dropped The Undertaker right on his head, and I kid you not, my friends, this is one of the most scary bumps you will ever see. If The Undertaker was half his size, I actually think he'd be dead. Once he does kind of shake off the cobwebs too, the real-life Mark Calloway looks super frustrated, and Bill isn't enjoying this either. It's just one of those things that fell off the rails instantly, and then just continued to descend. So the next time we do head to Saudi and somebody says, oh, we need a dream-style bout, let's just have a little bit of thought here. Both guys were lucky to walk away in the condition that they did. This is one that isn't funny in any sense of the word, and a good reminder that wrestling can be terrifying. We've always got to respect it. Know of any other wrestling nightmares somehow worse than we all imagined? Well, make sure you let us know in the comments below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. You can also click the video on the screen to get even more wrestling knowledge in your life, but otherwise, my friends, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming, and I will talk to you again very soon.